Hi, welcome back. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to look at conditional chaining or command chaining, and basically what command chaining does or allows you to do is you can actually layer multiple commands, okay, that sequentially go from one command to the other. So for instance, now let me clear the screen and let's say I just want to run a bunch of commands. First of all, I just want to do an ls. After doing the ls, then I just want to do a cat on file1.txt, and in this case there's nothing, so let me just add something with nano. This is just to I just say hey. Alright, so of course you can do that. So let's see present working directory. So let me change directory here. Now what I want you to understand is, if I want to actually run all these commands and do a cat on file1.txt, I'll first of all have to do a cd into the root directory or the home. Let me just do a cd into home. Alright, so once I have a cd into home, I have my files. Then I want to do an ls, okay, just like I did, and then now I want to cat file1.txt. So if you notice here, I had to do a cd into home, then an ls, and then a cat on file. Now what is so interesting here is we can actually chain all these commands to actually form one command. Okay, so that said, now let's see if, for instance, I come here and I say, okay, I want to do a cd into home, okay, and after doing that I put a semicolon. So you can see here that the command chaining now starts with the semicolon. So after changing directly in the home directory, then do it the next thing, right? So the next thing is to run an ls, and after running the ls, then I now do a cat on file1.txt. Alright, so you can see here I have three different commands layered or combined or chained into one command here in the command prompt. So if I press enter here, you can see that there was a cd into the home directory, there was an ls which gave us this output, and the next command was that there was a cat, okay, which basically gave us hey. Alright, so you can see this is command chaining, and that's how easy it is. So you can wrap around all commands or majority of your commands into one line. So this is useful sometimes if you just really want to save yourself a lot of typing, so or a lot of going to steps and looking at steps and scrolling the screen for all the steps you've been doing. So you can easily just bump everything up in one line, which is good. Alright, so the next thing I want to show you guys is the conditional command chaining, or the error return codes or levels. Anytime you type anything in your Linux environment, something is returned, okay, and that's something, basically it's a return code of some sort. So the first one that you should be familiar with is in this case the exit status. So anytime you run a command, it actually stores a value in the exit status, a code that tells you or the system what the status of the command that was run was. So in this case, for instance, if I run an ls, if I run the let's say I run ls-a or -dd on etc, right? So here you can see, because I did an ls-d of etc, you can see if I run an echo on the $question mark here, you can see that there's a 0 here. Now the 0 here means success, and the $question mark here actually stands for the exit status. So what we're interested in is the exit status, which stores the exit status of every command. Basically has 0 in it. So 0 here means it's successful, and because it's successful, it means everything was alright, right? Okay, that means there was no error, and then you can see the codes, everything was cool and all. This is good, this is all. But now what happens if, for instance, I run a command that's not found? Okay, so for instance, I do an echo and I put a $O in it, and I do question mark. Alright, now I get this error message that says command not found, and if I run an echo of the exit status this time around, you can see here that because the command was not found, here I have a return code 127. Okay, so 127 is always attached to the echo command not found kind of return code. So for instance, what if I also try to run a file that is not executable, for instance? So let's say file .txt. Here you can see I have a different kind of error. This time around it says permission denied. What that means is I'm trying to run a script as executable even though the file is not executable. So how do I know that the file is not executable? If I run an ls-l here, you can see that there's no x in any of the permissions bits, so that means the file is not executable, and that's a problem. Okay, so if I run the file not found error again, in this case, and I check the exit status, if I can type today. Okay, so you can see here that this time around the return code is 126. Okay, so this is useful if you're coding your application or you're writing some scripts and you want to always check the status of a command. So let's say you check the interface of a machine and you run a ping across it and the ping returns a reply, then that means the ping was successful and there was a reply. But when you run the command and then there was no ping for, let's say, for 2 seconds, then obviously the command did not run, and then you're gonna have a particular kind of return code, and then you check for that return code and then notify your script for what to do next. Okay, so this is just an example. So what I want you to take out here is that anytime you run a command, the return code is always stored in the $_, which is exit status. Now the codes might be different based on different kind of operations. So for instance, if a command was run successfully, then the return code is 0, exit status becomes 0. If we have a command not found kind of error, then the exit status is 127, and then if we have a permission denied kind of error, we have the exit code of 126. Alright, so this is cool, and then you can read more about that in the material I gave you. The next thing I want us to look at is the conditional execution, and then this is useful. For instance, if let's say I run an ls, right, and then you can see the output of ls here, which is good. Now, but if I run an ls-l, you can see I have a different output, right? Now, but now I just want to see file 1, file 2, and file, and then for some reason I just want to play around with the output a bit. Okay, so let's say I just want to run the tail-1 command. Alright, so sorry about that. Let me just show you what I mean. So I run the tail command on home and then file .txt, and then here I can see that because the file contains hey, I have the first line, which is just tail. I'll talk about this later. Let me just clear the screen. And okay, so I'm having some problem typing today. So hey, you can see we'll have that. So what if I just want to take out the first letter H or HE, then I will have to now say, okay, if you have this output hey, what would be the result if I cut out the first 1 to 2 of the word hey, right? So let's see. Okay, so let's see this. Apparently I can execute this. Alright, so but anyway, so let me just show you what I'm trying to achieve here. You know, I did tail of home and the output was hey, right? Now I just want to take that output and then send it to the next command that is going to actually take out the first 2 letters in the word. Okay, so the way you do that is you use the pipe meta character. So this is actually the conditional execution we're talking about. So I do this and then I type cut 1 to 2, and then I okay, press enter. So what happens is you see cut -c12 is supposed to be fed with a file or let's say a string, right? And then this string actually was the result of the output from tail-1 of the file 1.txt. So you can see here I've taken out the first 2. Don't worry about the cut, and I'll explain that to you later. At some point in class you should have understood the explanation of that. So as you can see, this is the conditional execution. So I run this and the output is now sent to the next command, and if I want to add more commands I can just keep using the pipe meta character, and that's on its own basically make the script work. So hopefully this was useful. If you notice here, we just covered the command chaining. We just talked about the error return codes and return codes for most operations. We'll talk about the 0, 126 and 127 return codes, which in its respective line means the exit status of success messages or success commands. We look at the permissions denied kind of errors, and then the command not found errors. So next, what we're going to look at in the next video is we look at the standard input, standard output, and standard errors, which actually constitute the redirection technique in Bash. So when do we have to redirect a file? Well, we'll find out in the next video. So hopefully this was useful. If you have questions on this and you don't understand a part of it, please leave a comment, and hopefully I'll have to say more in class, or you can always go to the page for the course and then I'll put your comments in there. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one.